I almost bought a piece of a $100 million hotel with my lunch money. It sounds crazy, right? Well, buckle up because I just stumbled onto a crypto story that made me question everything that I thought I knew about investing. So, the other day, I'm scrolling through our free educational Discord server when a headline jumps out at me. $100 million of real estate is being tokenized on Stellar. I was like, wait, what? Tokenized real estate on Stellar of all places. Right now, if you're like me, you probably remembered all of the buzz about tokenizing real world asset. It's a kind of fancy talk for turning things like buildings into digital tokens that people can trade. Now, it's one of those ideas that's always kind of sounded awesome, but never really quite took off in a big way. Now, naturally, I had to investigate this. I mean, $100 million worth of commercial properties being sliced into crypto tokens. Now, this could be the blueprint for the future of property investing, or just another pipe dream. And I've got to tell you, what I found was more exciting than I actually expected. This is a story about breaking down big money barriers, lightning fast blockchains, and how regular folk might get a shot at investing something that used to be kind of rich people only. By the end of this, you might actually be just as stunned as I was. Trust me. All right, let's start at the beginning, right? Do you know how investing in fancy apartment complexes or swanky hotels usually works? You don't. Well, because usually, unless you're kind of you've got millions in the bank or you're part of some kind of exclusive club, those deals are, well, locked away. It's kind of like trying to join an elite country club where the membership fee is your entire net's worth. Right now, my buddy once joked that he'd have to sell both kidneys to afford a slice of a Manhattan high-rise. Enter RedSwan. Now, RedSwan is this digital real estate investment platform, and they decided to bring a whopping $100 million worth of commercial real estate onto a blockchain, the blockchain, via the Stellar network. And we're kind of talking high quality, multi-family apartments and luxury hospitality properties that not normally only big fish can invest in. And RedSwan isn't doing this on a whim. Now, they chose Stellar very deliberately. So, why Stellar, you ask? It's a good question. So when I first read this, even I was like, why not Ethereum, right? Or some other chain that's more popular for tokens. Then I dug deeper and it clicked. Stellar offers something that most older blockchains kind of struggle with, which is speed and low cost. Now, according to Stellar's own report, transactions on their network settle in about 5 seconds. 5 seconds. And the fees are so low that they're normally just laughable. So if you've ever kind of used Ethereum during a busy day, then you know the pain. $50 gas fees and waiting minutes, if not hours, for, well, confirmation. So it's kind of like waiting in line at the DMV. So Stellar is more like kind of tapping your contactless card and bam, transaction is done. Right now, for something as unsexy as real estate, which is kind of notorious for slow paperwork and delays, a 5-second global transaction is kind of a breath of fresh air. It makes issuing and moving tokenized assets actually practical. So if you're kind of trading slices of a building, you don't want to wait a week for the deed transfer to clear, do you? You want it in near instant time, like any other crypto asset. Now, beyond speed, there's another thing that Stellar nails here, and that's compliance and safety features. I discovered Stellar has these kind of built-in tools that make tokenization friendlier for regulated assets. One is called Trustlines. Now, in simple terms, a trust line means that you have these kind of opt-ins, rather explicitly choose to hold a given token in your wallet. Now, random tokens, they can't just appear in your account unless you've said, yes, I trust this asset. It's kind of like having a bouncer at the door of your crypto wallet checking IDs. And this might seem trivial to many of you if you've kind of used the wild west of crypto where anyone can send you anything. But for regulated markets like real estate securities, it is actually huge. It means that investors won't suddenly, find sketchy assets in their portfolio that they never actually agreed to. And issuers like RedSwan can enforce KYC AML requirements, the know your customer and anti-money laundering checks that keep regulators happy. Now, they even have to, at least have the ability here, to even freeze accounts and assets if needed to, or restrict who can actually trade them. Now, I know the crypto purist in me hears freeze assets and cringes quite a bit, right? We're all about decentralization. But in the world of real estate and securities, those controls are not just important, they're actually legally required. So Stellar managed to kind of bake them into the network without sacrificing the overall openness. So it's kind of like a blend of Wall Street rules with crypto tech. And odd couple, I know, but it does work, right? And it does. And get this, because all of these tokenized assets live on the same ledger as Stellar's native decentralized exchange, the SDEX, well, they can actually be traded against each other instantly. Imagine a giant swap meets where all of the sellers and buyers of every token asset are actually all in the same room together, right? Got some tokenized hotel shares and you want to trade them for tokenized treasury bills or stable coins, or maybe even XLM, Stellar's native token, well, there's no need to hop across different platforms or different chains. It's all on one network, one big party. And Stellar also supports multiple currencies on the same ledger. So you could trade a tokenized real estate share directly for, let's say, a euro-backed stablecoin, or even a USDC digital dollar right there on the network. Now, this creates a more liquid, seamless marketplace for all of these assets worldwide. So if you've ever kind of tried to sell something like a limited partnership in a building, maybe in a kind of traditional way, then you know it's usually anything but seamless, right? Weeks of broker calls and paperwork. Now here, it could be as easy as a few clicks. Mind-blowing. It really truly honestly is. Now, around this point in my research, I had to kind of pick up my jaw off of the floor. But before I go too far down the rabbit hole, I need to drop a quick reality check. Now, this might just shock you, but I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing in this video is financial advice. Cryptocurrencies are highly volatile and you could lose all of the money that you invest. You should always do your own research and consult a qualified professional. After all, your investments are entirely your responsibility and you should know that nothing is ever guaranteed when it comes to investing. Neither I, this channel, nor YouTube are liable for any losses. And this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Alright, I'm glad that we kind of got that out of the way, but let's get back to the story here because it gets even better. RedSwan's venture into Stellar isn't happening in a vacuum. It actually turns out that Stellar has been quietly building an entire ecosystem for real-world assets on-chain. And I had no idea how far along they actually were until now. Now, they're not just dabbling here. They have a goal. By the end of 2025, Stellar expects to have about $3 billion in real-world assets held on its blockchain, and could be powering as much as $110 billion in RWA transaction volume. Yes, you heard that right, $110 billion. That's kind of like the GDP of a small country flowing through tokenized assets on Stellar's network. Now, when I read that, my eyes widened. It's one thing to tokenize a single building as kind of proof of concept. It's another to aim for billions in assets and a flood of trading volume. It tells me that Stellar isn't playing around here. They're actually positioning to be a major backbone for this new tokenized economy. And it's not just RedSwan or some niche startups, right? Some heavy hitters in the finance space are already on board. Remember Franklin Templeton? Well, that old school investment giant managing gazillions of dollars already, okay, maybe not that much, about 1.5 trillion, but you know, who's counting, right? They actually launched a tokenized US Treasury fund on Stellar. Yeah. One of the oldest names in the game chose Stellar to modernize one of the safest assets around, US government bonds. Now, they did it out of the Luxembourg to give European institutional investors easier access. If you're an investor in, let's say, Germany or France, and you want a piece of the US Treasuries, well, traditionally, you'd have a whole lot of paperwork and maybe a US brokerage account, right? Stellar is cutting through all of that, making it as easy as holding a token in your digital wallet. That's insane, in a good way. And Franklin Templeton isn't some outlier either. They've got Wisdom Tree, another big asset manager, who's jumped in early on the tokenization trend via Stellar. Now, Stellar is expanding its roster, bringing in Paxos, partnering with Etherfuse, and even SG Forge, which, fun fact, is the blockchain arm of, some of France's biggest banks. Now, these aren't your typical crypto bros, right? These are the finance heavyweights and legit institutions saying, all right, let's do this crypto thing, but let's do it right. Now, Stellar is basically becoming the go-to network if you want to issue real-world asset tokens, and that kind of people actually want to use and trust. Seeing names like these kind of gives me a few chills, like the good kind of chills, because it signals that this isn't just a crypto nerd fantasy. It's actually blending into the mainstream financial world. Now, while I was neck deep in all of this research, I also took a break to check out some of crypto prices, old habits, I had a BitGet app open on another tab, and I see how Stellar's XLM token was actually reacting to all of this news. By the way, if you're into trading or just starting out, I do have an affiliate link for BitGet that is down in the description. Using that link actually supports the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. Just a heads up. So anyway, I'm watching the charts and I'm thinking, does the market even realize just how big this could be? Sometimes these fundamental developments, they fly under the radar because they're just not as sexy as kind of price pumps, right? But in the long run, they can be absolute game changers. And speaking of game changers, let's talk about Ondo Finance and their new thing on Stellar, right? A token called USDY. Now, I like to kind of think of USDY as a yield coin. It's essentially a crypto token that's backed by real-world US Treasuries, those super safe bonds, and it pays out yield, meaning that holders get interest. Now, this isn't just some kind of meme coin promising 1,000% APY out of thin air. No, it's based on actual US Treasury yields managed by Ondo, right? They launched USDY on Stellar and are managing over $650 million in assets tied to those treasuries. Now, for investors outside of the United States, this is a pretty big deal. Usually, if you're not in the States, getting your hands on a yield-bearing US asset can be a bit complicated. So if you're not, impossible, of course, right? But now, with something like USDY, a person in, let's say, Dubai, like here, for example, or somewhere else, they can actually park some money in a token that gives them a steady US interest return. Now, it's kind of like opening a high-yield savings account in the United States without actually ever setting foot in a US bank. And guess what? USDY is being integrated across Stellar's apps like 𝗗𝗶𝘀𝗰𝗍, one of the most popular Stellar wallets, Aquarius, Meru, SoroSwap, and even Decaf Wallet, right? Now, if you're into the Stellar ecosystem, you've probably bumped into USDY as you explore. It's becoming part of the furniture, so to speak. Now, if you're thinking, all right, we've got real estate, we've got treasuries, what about money transfers? Well, Stellar is on it. I came across a story about MoneyGram. Yes, the MoneyGram that your grandma might have used to wire money. And they're launching a pilot in Colombia with a Stellar-powered application. Now, it lets users receive an instant money transfer from abroad into an account balance that's basically in USDC, a US dollar stablecoin, at least on the Stellar network, via a wallet made by a company called CrossMint. All right, that's a lot. So in plain English, someone in the United States can send money to their family in Colombia. Within seconds, it kind of pops up on the recipient's phone as a digital dollar. Now, the user can hold those dollars and send and spend them directly. Or if they need physical cash, they can just walk into one of almost 500,000 MoneyGram locations worldwide and cash it out. How cool is that? Now, I remember that the last time that I actually sent money overseas the old way, it took days and a fee fees were absolutely outrageous. Now here we are seeing a glimpse of how crypto can actually make that experience instant and almost fee-free, but without the kind of user even needing to understand the whole tech in the background. They just see dollars on their phone. Now, it's crypto in the back end and a friendly kind of front face on the front end. Now, all of these pieces, the stable coins like USDC or EURC on Stellar, tokenized treasuries, real estate, even CBDC pilots. Yeah, Stellar's been involved in the central bank digital currency tests too. They're coming together here to showcase what this technology can actually do at scale. And Stellar is delivering it at scale. It's not just in theory here. So I feel like I just looked behind the curtain of a magic show and found that, the tricks, they were actually all real. So by the end of my little deep dive here, I had this realization that we are watching the financial world quietly evolve in real time. And I almost missed it because I wasn't screaming, or at least it wasn't screaming, in the headlines or on all of the Twitter hype. While everyone's kind of arguing about what meme coin will do the next moonshot, Stellar and its partners have been busy actually building the rails for a new financial system. One where owning a piece of a skyscraper could be as easy as buying a stock. One where sending money across the world is as simple as sending a text. And one where even conservative investments like government bonds get a crypto makeover so that they're easier to access and trade. I have to admit, I used to roll my eyes when people used to say things like, "We're going to tokenize the world." It sounded like one of those, empty slogans. But now I'm eating those words just a little bit. Tokenized real estate on Stellar. It isn't just a cool news bite, is it? It's part of a pattern, momentum that's building. And it's kind of like at least the innovation that kind of makes me genuinely excited again. And a little bit stunned. Let's think about it. Real estate was always this kind of illiquid, hard to break into asset class. If platforms like RedSwan, powered by Stellar, can chip away at that, well, the ripple effects could be absolutely massive. Maybe in a few years, instead of, REITs, real estate investment trusts, or crowdfunding sites, actually people might be talking about holding actual tokenized equity in buildings via their crypto wallets. It's kind of like science fiction, but it's actually happening right now, step by step. Now, before I wrap up here, I want to give a quick shout out to another tool that I've been using lately. Now, it's called Blowfin. This is a crypto exchange that I've been making some waves, that has been making waves recently. Now, if you've been looking for new places to trade or you want to explore a little bit, then check out Blowfin. I've got a link that's in the description, and yes, that is an affiliate link, which basically means that if you sign up and trade through it, it actually supports the channel here at no extra cost to yourself. Now, I always appreciate the support, and it helps me keep this kind of content coming. So, what is the takeaway here? Well, for me, it's that sometimes the real revolution isn't actually loud or flashy. It's not a meme coin skyrocketing 1,000% overnight. It's a steady build, like what Stellar and its partners have been doing right now. They're laying the plumbing for a world where real value moves as freely as information. Now today, it's a $100 million tokenized real estate deal with RedSwan. Tomorrow, it could be $100 billion of all kinds of assets zipping around on Stellar's network. And maybe, just maybe, a kid like me with a few bucks that could invest in something like Manhattan's high rise or a fancy hotel in Dubai and actually own a tiny slice of it. How cool would that be? Anyway, I wanted to just share this eye-opening journey with you because it felt like peeking into the future. So if you've been in crypto space for a while, you probably know how rare it is to see real-world adoption at this kind of scale. And if you're new, well, now you know that crypto is not all about coins. It's actually about transforming how we do things. Sometimes it's the kind of most down-to-earth ways. All right, I think I've kind of geeked out long enough for one video, so if you've stuck around long enough here, then you are the real MVP. And hey, join the Discord server if you haven't done so already. It's free, we hang out, we share tips, and we learn from each other. So if you've enjoyed coming along on this little adventure, you can do me a favor by smashing that like button, hitting the subscribe, and join me for the next one. I promise to keep uncovering the wildest stories in crypto. So I will catch you all in the next one.